Greetings and salutations everyone, I'm Ekamac, this is Let's Play Oxygen Not Included. In the last episode we started our little colony here. We have 3 duplicates, we have bedrooms, we have toilets, we have ways to fill up the sinks in the toilets. We're just working on this little research facility off to the right here. And, So then, important thing to note. Certain rooms have a bonus to them, so by having only beds in this room, it becomes a barracks. Or rather, the requirements are right there. Single bed, no industrial machinery, we have minimum and maximum room size. If we fill all those things in, when someone sleeps in it, they gain a morale bonus. We saw a little bit of that last time, but not too much. Yeah, we've sealed that back up again, so it's a bedroom once again. And down here, by having a toilet and a wash station in here and no industrial machinery, this counts as a latrine, which also gives us a morale bonus. What are morale bonuses? Well, they're basically these things. By having certain things for them, the number goes up or down. That's their total morale. The more skills they learn, the more morale they need. Otherwise, because if your total morale is lower than your expected morale, then they start to get stressed. And at 100% stress, things go bad. Exactly what happens depends on the personality of the duplicant, but anyway, we have our research station set up. There's quite a lot to research in this game, which is why it's important to start now. The thing I always 100% do is go for basic farming, because we want the compost. Also, it's on the way to getting our ranching started up, and we need that if we want to get carnivore. But it's certainly not the only thing that we need for carnivore, unfortunately. We just found another little hatch here. Maybe expand this room a little bit because hatches don't like their rooms to be too small, do they? And yeah, this is sort of a dead time with the colony, where I'm just simply waiting out for my next duplicant to come out, because if you remember at the start, we picked out someone who's going to have extra high stats in ranching. But right now they're acting as our supply character, they bring dirt to the research station as needed. They clean out the outhouses and the basins, and they bring the materials over to construction projects. Also stores all the food, very important that. But we don't want him to specialize in it. We want him to go on to become our farmer and later on our rancher, which means that whoever comes out is going to be our new supply and demand. And as you can see, night shift just ended, so he's going over to the toilet and then he's going to have some food to eat. You start out with a bit of food, but not too much. The muckroot is only going to last so long. This small quarter area over here is going to be dedicated to running more advanced plumbing. So I guess this area to the left is where we're going to set up our massive hatch ranch. Alright then. The thing is, we also kind of want to leave all the plants in place and not tear them out of the ground. I did it over here because I had to, but when you're going for the locavore achievement, you actually have to scrimp and save for every single meal possible because, oh boy, it comes very close to starving the whole colony. Because you have to deal with that and carnivore. But the thing is, you can't start eating meat straight away, because if you kill off all your hatches, then you've got nothing to feed yourself on. These guys up here aren't any good for food, they just produce little eggs, and unfortunately, omelets don't count as meat. We have 60 seconds until our next duplicant appears. Night shift is now on the work schedule, meaning that Ren is now on his break, because it should now be the morning shift break. Which means that whoever comes out of here is going to take the morning shift. Alright, choose a blueprint. We aren't allowed to save scum to reset our dupes. And actually one of the biggest mistakes you can make at the start of the game is just to always going for new duplicants, because you've got to feed them and they need to breathe. It's entirely plausible to just stick with a small colony until you feel you're ready to tackle more duplicants. But that said, Harold actually looks really good, because I want him to be my supplier. He has interests in both stats and high strength at the start. Like, this is going to give him 16 strength, plus natural handiness. He's not going to help us with building. The other thing is, Gene looks tempting because of Starry-Eyed. He gets plus 10 morale while in space. And if you look at the achievements, Moral High Ground. Have the duplicants in one rocket survive in space for 10 cycles in a row with a morale of 10, for 10 cycles in a row with a morale of 25 or higher. And that's, 25 is actually a very difficult number to reach. So being able to have someone with a natural plus 10 to that stat is already a really nice boon. The thing is his stats. I feel like we are going to go for Harold though. There's also one thing. If you save the game and then reload it, it changes your blueprints that are available. So if you don't like anything, but you really want to get something, like you're looking for food from care packages, or if you really want a specific stat duplicant, then you can use the save reload function. It's just very tedious and sometimes overloads the RAM. The thing is, when we get to space, germs are kind of a problem. I think I actually want someone that can carry more. But I also don't want to save scum in a Let's Play. So Gene, welcome! And something very important to keep in mind. New duplicants. They start with a single skill point. The ones that we got right at the beginning of the game, they don't have any skill points. They have to learn one. But whoever you get first gets a single point, which you can assign however you want. I feel like cooking is actually an important stat to get early, especially if you're going for locavore. I usually don't, because I don't know what I usually get for that first stat, but cooking certainly isn't one of them. Oh, research has finished. That means we have two things we want to do. We want to set a new research. Specifically, we want to skim all the way down to colony development and go for advanced research. Because if you look to the right a little bit, we have blue research points for these early ones, but then all of a sudden they have purple. This is how you do that purple research. Meaning that if we want to get anything interesting, we have to figure out how to first research those purple points. The other thing is, I now want to build a compost in the toilets. Because the thing is, composts are also dirty, so we want to make sure that whoever uses the compost will immediately walk past wash basins. We could build it in another room with its own little wash basin, but then... that's a recipe for disaster, because what happens is that if someone is carrying a thing, but then break comes up, they will immediately drop whatever they're doing, unless they have nothing else to do. And if they happen to drop it while they're traveling between sanitized rooms, it means the next person to pick it up is going to have grimy hands, and they might very well end up... basically, the germs are sort of contagious, where as you walk past them, if anything they use while they're covered in germs will take some of those germs. And vice versa. If they use things covered in germs, then they'll be covered in germs. So it's best to try and keep the food poisoning contained to the bathroom. We also have a ration box available for building, and this might be a good time to prioritize on excavating a little carbon sink for it. Because the thing is, food rots. It eventually goes stale, but that's not bad. What's bad is that it can rot into a pile of... it can rot, and then the only thing it's good is for is sticking in the compost pile over here. And because we're playing locavore and carnivore, we need to scrimp and save for every single bit of meat that we can get. We need to scrimp and save for every type of food we can get. And to slow down decomposition, we want to stick it in a sink of carbon dioxide. And because carbon dioxide always goes down, you can create these little carbon sinks to store them in. Or rather you... well, yeah. You make these little corridors for storing all your food in. And that slows their decomposition down. Not perfectly, but it'll at least help you keep true. It'll at least help out a bit. Extend their shelf life, so to speak. We have a water cooler and a crafting station. Not bad. The crafting station means absolutely nothing to us for now. The water cooler is a way to increase your morale, but at the cost of reducing the water stats of the colony. It only uses a little bit each time, but it will add up, so until you have sustainable water supplies, it's probably better to leave it off. But it does have one little use, and we will see that eventually. But not for a few episodes yet. We have a tutorial on scheduling, but I already showed that off. I guess I could show it off a bit better. So, blue is bath time. They'll do hygienic things, like go to the bathroom, use the shower, or wash their hands. Once they're caught up on personal hygiene, duplicates head back to work. We haven't seen any duplicates stop to do that because we have the... they're never going to have germs because they always walk past these wash basins. And we don't have any showers, so they can't use those. So basically they just go straight to work the moment they wake up. The dark blue is bedtime. They use bedtime shifts to rest up after a hard day's work. The thing is, bedtime overrides everything. Even if they're already perfectly rested, they're still going to stay in bed. If they can't get to a bed, then they'll just sleep on the ground. And yeah, I'm pretty sure that no matter what, you always need to have 3 slots of bedtime, even when you have better beds that rest them up faster, simply because the time it takes to get to bed can be a bit tricky. Actually, on second thought, no, the thing is that if they don't have full stamina, then they sleep longer. They'll sleep into their other shifts. And finally, there's downtime. They may do as they please. They might visit the bathroom, they might eat, or they could do leisure activities, such as the water cooler. It's a surprisingly in-depth system, to be honest. Now, we want to make sure that they always bring their meal lice here, and we want to prioritize that over this, which is muckroot and nutrient bar never rot. So we want to make sure they put the things that can rot away in the carbon dioxide sink over here, rather than to put away the things that are fine on the floor as long as a hatch doesn't get at them. I guess while they do some further work there, we can look at this area here. This is a very cold area. It's an ice biome. We can't get to it yet, but I can point out 2 things. First of all, these plants, sleetwheat, they can only live in the cold, but when they produce food, they actually produce pretty good food. It can be baked at you can take it to the kitchen and turn it into bread. And it takes a very long time for it to grow, but the amount of bread that it produces is pretty nice. Over here is a wheezewort, a very special sort of plant that will actively lower the temperature nearby. But most importantly is this here, cool slush geyser, or geyser. I go by with geyser. What the geyser does... Yeah, we got a huge achievement. What the geyser does is that... okay, 252 seconds every 594 seconds. That is how long it will be emitting a new element into the world. This specific geyser produces polluted water, quite a lot of polluted water, at -10 degrees Celsius. Thermodynamics is important in this game. One of the long-term dangers is running out of oxygen, but another one of them is overheating your colony so that the plants and animals can't survive there. The Spaced Out DLC starts you out with the polluted water geyser, which is very useful for just dropping the temperature by piping this stuff all through the facility. But it's just a temporary stopgap measure. New research. So, I think the best thing to do now is to go for this jumbo battery. Because at the moment, this battery can only store up a small amount of power. We want to store up more before we go for the longer duration research projects. But yeah, as I was saying, an early game countermeasure could be to basically pump all this polluted water and cycle it around the base a bit to drop the temperature down, before disposing of the polluted water thoughtfully somewhere where you don't mind there being a bit more heat than usual. Because remember, you aren't necessarily deleting the heat, you're just transferring it from one area to another. Heat deletion is a long-term project. But something that we can do is install a supercomputer. Supercomputers are only... So basically, we're never going to replace this research station. We are always going to need blue research points. But likewise, they can't do the purple research. This is where the supercomputer comes into it. So it's a good idea to have everything in a nice enclosed area here. That way when our researcher scientist duplicate finishes his job there, he can immediately run over to here. And by putting the supercomputer close to the pitcher pump, when he needs to fill it up because This uses dirt, this uses water. He's only got a small distance to run before he can fill it up again. The higher research skill doesn't reduce the amount of resources you use, it just reduces the time it takes to earn each point. Ooh. Actually, here's the little thing that I'm planning on, that I think I'll do. Build this. Disable this. Set up our next research project, and we can basically click here to put it in advance. We now want to aim for ranching. We have everything we need to get that ranching level up. But I want to create a small enclosed area and then put this critter egg in it. Because the thing is, the best way to increase research speed, aside from having only one duplicate ever do the research, is light. And shine bugs produce light. In fact, it's the only thing they do produce, because everything else, they're kind of a drain on resources. They eat food off the ground, they don't produce meat, and their eggs barely produce any omelette. So yeah, if I can get this little shine egg down into this area, that would definitely help out with the research speed. Oh yeah, our supplying duplicate. Rin can have those cancelled and instead focus slightly on farming, but mostly on ranching, because now Jean is doing all the rushing about carrying things. But the thing is that because Jean is our cook, eventually that'll be your full-time job and we'll have to get someone else to do the supplying. So, to keep them from carrying every shine bug egg we have in the local area, what you do is you tag this for sweeping and then you tag this box as sweep only. Then people are only going to fill it up with such should the item in question be for sweeping. There are certainly uses for this, but basically knowing how the AI for this game works is how you get it done. Oh dear, no, we weren't done with that. Keep in mind that eggs will only hatch if they're left on the floor or in incubators. If you leave them in boxes, then they'll actually lose viability until eventually the egg dies and it can't turn into a critter anymore. Right, this might not be important, but it just makes me feel better about myself. I've let the batteries drain out completely, and now I can replace this tiny battery with a jumbo battery. Plug the battery in. And enable the building only after the battery is properly turned, once the battery is installed, because if duplicates see a manual generator and there's no battery on the cabling, then they'll just run the manual generator infinitely. I think that has some purposes in very late game areas where you just want to pack everyone into a small place or use that as a way to train up new duplicates. But, not good for the early game where every second is precious. Oh dear, we're actually running out of time. This chunk of uranium ore is quite important. I'll have to figure out how to get at that later. This little alcove over here has food in it. We want to get at that as soon as possible. And over here, this is neutronium. If you look back here, neutronium here. If you see neutronium, it means there's a geyser or volcano of some sort here. So let's find out what this is using a little bit of a cheat. Tag this as a yellow alert and mouse over. It tells us it is a volcano. We're not going to do anything with this for a very long time. I don't see any... no, I take that back. We have something over here. This is a carbon dioxide geyser. A carbon dioxide geyser is actually quite handy. Not for the immediate future, but just know that they're a source of extreme sub-zero temperatures. And a lot of carbon dioxide. You're going to overflow your base if you leave those unplugged. But they do have their uses. And, okay, we are earning skill points. That's important. So Ashkin is our first to earn a skill point. He's our researcher, so we want to put him into advanced research. Now he can use the supercomputer. He couldn't before. And that's what this little pop-up is saying. Hey, you can't do anything about your research for this tier of ranching. But he'll just rush over, immediately learn it, and then he can continue to work. I guess that means that I should probably show off just how important... So, mechatronics engineering. We have someone who eats more than their fair share, but we have access to this straight away. How much of an investment is this? Well, Hassan just learned how to dig better things, but look at this. You have to get 2 points in electrical engineering, and then 2 points in carrying before you can even learn this. And it's actually kind of important to learn this if you're going for the carnivore achievement. It's not critical, but it makes life so much easier for it. This oxalate is expended, so we can plug in a door to fill in this gap. And the toilet has been overused, so now it's out of order. So we have a duplicate come over to disinfect it, removing all the germs from it. And then a duplicate has to come over and unclog it. This is why I always tag these as level 9 jobs, because if you don't, then people leave them undone. It's why I built 2 toilets, because otherwise Hassan would have nowhere to go right about now. I think... yeah, there's no plant here, so we should be okay to build a little ladder here. Just to get rid of this bottom layer of carbon dioxide which is building up around the toilets. Duplicates specifically can only breathe oxygen or polluted oxygen. And even then, they don't care much for polluted oxygen. It actually increases the amount of oxygen they take in per second for a little while, but at least they can breathe it. Anything else? No. We're building a few mess tables here because that will turn this room into a mess hall, increasing the amount of morale they get eating here. So yeah, we've got our start of a little base here. We have our little science facility, which is going to produce a shine nymph soon and speed up the research there. We have functional toilets, we have functional bedding, We're going to build a little bit of mess hall, and then we also have this little alcove here for storing our food in so it doesn't rot. Next time on Let's Play Oxygen Not Included, we're going to expand into some of the new biomes. Probably this one over here. Until next time guys, take care. We'll see you all around.